Uh, Hi guys, we'll wait for another 3-4 minutes for people to join and then we'll start.
Hi, Sanjana. Can you hear me?
Yes, Mr. Atul, I can hear you.
Okay, great.
We'll give 1 more minute and then we'll start. Okay, so hello everyone and welcome to another edition of Buds on STEM. Today we're in conversation with Mr. Atul Bansal, who is the CEO of TimeSys Corporation, headquartered in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, USA. And TimeSys is a leader for embedded Linux across many different industries. Mr. Atul co-founded Laurel Networks in Pittsburgh in 1999 and was also its CEO. Laurel Networks was acquired by ECI in 2005. Mr. Atul is also the co-founder of Innosential AI, where he established a world-class AI educational training institute of scientists, researchers, and AI industry experts to teach working professionals and students in practical environment. Mr. Atul earned his B.Tech degree from IIT Kanpur and has a double master's from University of Rhode Island. He worked in various engineering and management positions at DEC and FORE systems before founding Laurel Networks. I welcome Mr. Atul to our Buds on STEM session. It is an honor to have you here.
Thank you, Sanjana. I'm excited to be here. And I want to thank everybody for giving up their Saturday evening, going to movies, and enjoying the evening, watching TV or doing whatever you want to do, giving your evening for this talk. So thanks a lot.
We're glad to have you here. Uh, with this, let's start our today's session. Um, Mr. Atul, I was wondering, you're growing up in India as a small boy. How do you go from there to becoming the CEO of a technology company in US? Could you please walk us through your journey? I'm sure we could pick up some valuable insights from your journey.
Sure, I would love to. Um, Let me break down my journey. Can you guys all hear me properly?
Yeah, it
Yes,
is.
sir.
Okay. Okay, thanks. Yeah, there was a delay in the between India and here. Uh, so I'll break down my journey into two parts. The first part is how I became a software engineer, and the second part, how I became an entrepreneur slash CEO. Okay. So let me first start taking you when I was a boy. And in, I don't know why, maybe my uncle was in the army. I was very much motivated to become an Air Force pilot. It's very different from what I am right now, but that's what I wanted to become. And I worked very, very hard to compete. And I joined Sainik School, which is like a military school in Lucknow when I was 11 years old, at grade 7. I competed to join that, and I went to the boarding school there. But when I joined, I used to study in Hindi medium, which you will probably not think of it as nowadays. But going from a Hindi medium and the military school was an English medium, it was a shock to my system, basically. I was very good in math and science and everything. That did not bother me. I hate memorizing, though things have changed now. I hate memorizing stuff. And while I was there, I got a supplementary in history. And supplementary, those you don't know, it's more like, okay, you did not pass the exam, but we'll give you another chance after 2 months. It's a summer vacation. You can go take the exam. I said, oh, there's no problem. I'll go. And I am a big procrastinator. So we'll come to that thing where you might have questions. So I spent my 2 months, blew my 2 months just playing and doing nothing. And eventually when the time came, I was really scared. It was a fear of failure, that what will happen if I go write the exam and I fail, what will happen? Remember, I was 11 years old, and my mom was pushing me to come back home. I was in a boarding school at that point. So that gave me an excuse. I was a top student in my class. So I said, okay, yeah, how would I show my face? So I quit. And I came back and I said, nope, I'm not going to leave my dream, and I'm going to go and go through the NDA process. So when the time came about 11th and 12th, I went and appeared in NDA, but I ran into the same problem. It was a lot of memorization. There is a section, there's a whole exam called GK, General Knowledge, which you have to really remember. Either you are up to date on the current events, but you have to memorize a lot. And that's where I had difficulty, and I slowly lost my motivation, especially the friends around me. Nobody was preparing for NDA. Everybody was going to become a doctor or an engineer. So I changed gears and I said, okay, let me try this thing. But in that process, I lost 1 year. Um, so as I said, I'm not good in memorizing. So when it comes to biology, these long names, I said, that's not for me. So by elimination, doctors were out, or because at that time, basically, there were only two things you could do. I'm talking about, this is 77, 78, okay? About 78. So only two things you can do. Either you could become a doctor or you become an engineer. Those were the safest profession in India at that time. So I said, no, I'm going to become an engineer and start preparing for IIT. But like my procrastination, I was very good in studying, but I always had this notion that I can do things at last minute. And when you're preparing for something like this, last minute doesn't work. So 2 months before the IIT JE, one of my uncle, I was in a wedding of my uncle who is in US, his wedding. And my other uncle who was at IIT at that time, he cornered me in that wedding and gave me a 2-hour lecture. Believe you are like a 15-year-old or 16-year-old and somebody corners you, maybe I was a little older, 17-year-old. Somebody corners you in the wedding and gives you a lecture that I am wasting my life, wasting my time, and spending all my time socializing, playing. And that was the turning moment in my life. I worked 16 hours a day. I had 2 months only. I worked 16 to 18 hours a day to prepare for JE. And part of luck, got into JE and became an engineer. So from there, I finished my bachelor's in chemical engineering and came to do master's in chemical engineering here. But the question becomes is, so how does a chemical engineer become a software engineer? That's another journey. So while I was at IIT, everybody had to do one programming course. So we did all programming course. We liked it. It was a problem-solving course. But then a buddy of mine, we both took more computer science courses at IIT just to learn more computers. And we did one program which was computer plant simulation. And that was all done in computer. And at that time, we had to, you guys probably have heard of or may not have heard of something called punch cards. You had to write the program in a punch cards, basically. And I did that program, reviewed the whole logic, and ran the program first time, and it instantly worked. And that was the best moment of my life at that time. Why I said, wow, this is instant gratification. So that actually started to get me towards the programming. I came to US. I was on a full scholarship. So I was doing my master's in chemical engineering, but I started to take extra courses. So I'll do full load of master's, plus I will do extra courses on computer science. All the undergraduate requirements I finished while I was finishing my master's. When it came time to apply for what I want to do next, again, these decisions, some of the decisions in your life you make that shapes you. One of my professor, Dr. Arijit Bose, he said, Atul, I will give you a very good recommendation for either your master's in computer science or PhD in chemical engineering. But I will give you only recommendation for one. You cannot be on the both boats. You have to decide. At that point, and another friend of mine, actually, I was doing some work in material science. I said, do you think you can look under the microscope for the rest of your life? And I said, no, I cannot do that. And that became very clear to me. I want to do computer science. And that's when I applied for computer science master's. Another factor at that time was also that job market was very bad at that time in US. So when job market is bad and you're doing master's or something, you can stay in the school till the job market improves and you can acquire more skills. So after finishing, as Sanjana mentioned, I joined DEC, Digital Equipment Corporation. And that was my dream company, because when I joined IIT Kanpur, India had only two most powerful computer. Brand new computer came in 1978 one to TIFR, Tata Institute of Fundamental Research. Other was IIT Kanpur. So all the programming, everything I used to do was on this DEC 1090. And I said, wow, if I can get a job at DEC, life will be made. So I interviewed with DEC and I got 3 offers. And all the offers were in the networking field. And I went to my professor and I said, how do I decide? So my master's computer science professor, Dr. James Kowalski, he said, Atul, this is a new field. There was something called IP router. And he said, nobody is doing this thing, something brand new. Why don't you go and do that? And that's what I joined. I built the first IP router for DEC, digital equipment, in 1988, 89. Okay. This is what internet is right now, but that was 88, 89. So from there, from DEC, I joined FORE Systems, as we said, and FORE System was a premier ATM company, and which was then I formed Laurel Network, and I'll come to that journey. And now I'm running TimeSys as a CEO. So that is how I became a software engineer. But how did I become a CEO? Okay, that's another story. So that's the two part I said. First part is how did I become a software engineer? Now, so let me walk you through my entrepreneur journey. I always been an entrepreneur, and I tell you what one of the motivation as somewhere around high school, earlier high school, maybe 9th, 10th grade, around 10th grade. All my friends around me, they were all came from business family. And I and a few other people were from my father used to work for JK. He then changed his job and he went to Delhi and then he lost his job. So we went through a little bit of a financial difficult time. And I looked at my friends, they were doing so well. I said, I should actually build a business. And that was another critical thing that motivated as a kid that I want to build a business. I did not know that how difficult it is to run a business, but the grass is always greener on the other side. So I said, oh, okay, I'll go. That was always a desire. So whether I was at IIT or DEC or FORE Systems, anywhere I was there, I always found people who had ideas. They were always trying to do something outside. Even in my master's, our local Indian store was closed. So I was used to do a community service plus this. So I went and started an Indian store, self-service Indian store in my closet. I'll go to New York, buy groceries, put it there, put the price. And a friend of mine, she lived right across. So she will look after her babies. At the same time, she'll watch. People will come, take the stuff, put the money and leave, right? So it was a self-serving. So I used to get involved in lots of projects. We had lots of ideas. We experimented, but could never take risk in terms of leaving the job and going and doing it. Because of this financial difficulty we went through, I was little risk averse at that point. After FORE Systems got acquired, then I had a very solid foundation. And that's when I took the plunge and started Laurel Networks. And market was hard, money was not that difficult. And that's when I started Laurel Networks, which acquired by ECI Telecom. And then in 2007, my VCs of TimeSys, venture capitalists of TimeSys came, and they asked me, can you be the CEO and turn around TimeSys? So I joined them. And interesting thing at that point was, I was very good in building the plumbing of internet. As I said, we were the IP router. We knew all about how to build IP routers. That was the plumbing. But the people who were building businesses, they were all building as applications on top of the plumbing. So TimeSys was doing embedded Linux, which is again going down much deeper, but they were using web as a model to monetize. And that attracted me towards TimeSys. So I joined as the CEO, and following my entrepreneur spirit, I bought the companies from the VCs in 2014. So I am more of an entrepreneur first, and I'm entrepreneur first, then the CEO. So I will stop there because, and by the way, just one more thing. I started earlier this year. I'm also a part of a Thai group, if you guys have heard of the Indus Entrepreneur. So I started a Thai Pittsburgh Angel Fund earlier this year in 2021. So there's more and more towards the entrepreneur. So that's my entrepreneurial journey. I'll stop here and let you guys ask questions.
Okay, congratulations, by the way. I did not know that. And it's amazing to hear that you have also faced failure, because it's common among many of us at this age to get dejected by failure very easily. And the fact that from a military school you came all the way to becoming a CEO, it definitely gives us hope at this age, which is required. Um,
Go ahead. Go ahead.
yeah. So I was also wondering, what is the career path in software industry to go from a technical career ladder towards management and finally to run a company?
Good question. So typically when you join a technical, you go become an engineer, you join a company, most of the companies have two paths. Technical path, a lot of people do not like to do management. Management or running something is all about interacting with people, interacting with convincing people of your idea. So the two paths are, you are a technical and you become a technical manager. So when you're a technical manager, you're still managing people, still doing projects, doing delivery. But at some point, they also have people start to move towards the management side and product management side. So they start to understand the business side. So for example, for me, I was the technical manager at DEC. I became the architect. I was going at IETF, which is the standardization organization, which standardized a lot of things for internet. I used to do that. So when I joined FORE Systems, I used to sit with a lot of salespeople. So the office was federal sales office and engineering office that I started. And we used to sit together, and these guys will pull me all the time into customer meetings. And then we will go and talk to this thing. That's where I started to learn how to actually convince people how to be in sales. Sales is all about whether you are in your inside the company, if you have an idea, you have to convince other people to follow that idea. And that's what takes you, doesn't matter what the title is, that's what takes you towards the higher level management. That's what helped me how to sell it to the customers. If, just as an example, I don't know him, Google CEO, for example, if you Google him, you will find Sundar Pichai. He went from Chrome and running some Android OS to become a chief product officer. That's where you are actually taking everybody's ideas, synthesizing them, testing with the market, doing product management, and then before he became the CEO. So it's all about convincing people, working with people, and selling to people, your idea, and have them follow you. That's what the career path is if you want to go towards management.
Oh, okay. Thank you for sharing that. It's so true for people that are introverted. It is always like difficult to interact with people, but it's an important skill to climb up the career ladder.
Yes, and there are something basic things in your DNA. If you're an introvert, you cannot become by turning yourself to become an extrovert. There are people who are very successful, they're introvert, but the more people are successful are extrovert. But something that is you recognize first step is to recognize your gap and then work on that gap. For example, I was not good in language. I hated history. I passionately hated history after what happened to me in the military school. Now history is one of my favorite subjects, means because I have no exam pressure, no grade pressure. I really enjoy to understand how humanity or how things evolve, how religion evolved. That's one of my favorite topics. So you have to work hard on it.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing that. I was also thinking, I request you to please describe a typical day in your profession. I'm curious to know about
it. So as a CEO, typical day starts with surprises. Okay, that's the life of a CEO. There's nothing fixed about the day. Yeah, definitely you have a plan. Like for example, I have a plan that I need to make sure I have to look at sales. I have to think about what is going on with the partnership. So if you are a CEO, you're trying to push your agenda. You're trying to enhance your products. So you have meetings related to those products. Sometimes you're listening to the proposal. Sometimes you're sharing your idea, what you have researched. You're working with salespeople, meeting customers. So a lot of times goes in meeting and thinking about what to do next, right? But that's how you plan yourself on a typical day. But what happens is the day starts and the moment I open my email, either it's good or bad, just surprises. Something pops up. Oh, we got a new opportunity. So suddenly we have a new opportunity, which we were not expecting. Now suddenly you have to start thinking, who do I pull? What prioritize? How do I prioritize work? How do I start that thing? So it's all about dealing with surprises. That's the typical day for CEO. But yes, I set aside time for strategic, what is called little longer planning, right? You could be working day to day, just what is in front of you. You could be working on that, but sometime you have to extract yourself. That's why people have board meetings, advisory boards, where they force you to think about what is the future plan. So you have to think not just what is happening tomorrow, but what is going to happen in 6 months or 2 years. The bigger the company, the more CEOs are involved. But at my level, it's more about, because you wear many hats as the CEO of a startup. So that's a typical day. Lots of times goes in meeting and dealing with fires or opportunities.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing once again. This reminds me of something Elon Musk said actually, like, there is always something wrong and the CEO has to be a problem solver. The CEO definitely has like the most responsibilities no matter what. Yeah.
Very true. The buck stops. See, the problem is that so if I have to tell you surprises and problems, it's 20% positive surprises and 80% because people only come to you when there are problems.
Yeah.
So you are always constantly dealing with the problems, okay?
Yeah.
And the CEO, the buck stops with you. So if you don't make a decision, I mean, sometimes it takes time to make a decision, but indecision is a bad thing.
Yeah. So based on that, I also wanted to ask you, what kind of setbacks do you have to deal with and how do you handle them?
Okay. So as a company or the CEO, there are two major setbacks happen. One is that you lost a big opportunity or a big customer, and that's the loss both from revenue loss, morale loss, because now the whole team is down that we have lost this customer, for example. And there are many reasons why you would lose somebody. So that's the one setback. Especially what happens in the opportunity class. We, for example, at Laurel Networks, we were bidding as part of the British Telecom was building the 21st century network, and they had a $10 billion were they budgeted to upgrade the entire infrastructure. Okay, I had hired a team in England, and we had worked for 3 years to get into that point that we were qualified to actually bid, and we were spend a lot of time with them. And then we decided to go with the incumbent, which was Marconi. That was the one who built the UK's telephone network, for example. So we said, we partnered with them. We said, oh, there is no way we could lose this deal, for example, right? And then this Chinese company, Huawei, came and they on every category of 10 billion was not just for us. I mean, that's a lot of money. 10 billion was across many, many different equipments, different vendors, and Huawei dropped price for almost every category. So with Huawei pricing, what I heard was that the deal went down to about from $10 billion to $3 billion, and we lost that deal. It was a big setback. It was a big setback. If you lose things like that, it changes the trajectory of your company basically because you spend so much time. So what do? That happens. That happens all the time. You know, there's always, especially when you're selling, you learn that you will not win every deal. So you try your best. You get up next day, and you regroup. You start again. Maybe not next day if there is such a big deal. Maybe a next week or a next month. But you get up and you start again. You have to have a positive attitude. The second setback happens with people, that people leave, and it's natural. Like people, when they're working with you over time, they work. People just don't leave for the sake of leaving. Something happens, people grow, their goals change, and over time they leave. And for me, at least, my biggest satisfaction is if you have built a good relationship with people, and 10 years later, if you pick up a phone and call them and they pick up your phone, to me, you built a good relationship. And that happens, basically.
Yeah, that's a very wide and deep perspective. Thank you. It is important to have a positive attitude, definitely.
Yes, that's what I believe. Yeah, if you look at glass, there are people who are optimistic, and there are people who are pessimistic. I at least say that if you are being optimistic, obstacles will always come in life. You will have failures, you have things. But if you're an optimistic person, you will do well in life because you always look, the people want to be surrounded by optimistic people because they have positive energy.
Yeah, definitely. The next question I had was, so for the last 1.5 years, it has been dominated by one and only one thing, COVID-19. So how has the pandemic affected your profession?
So, good question. I'll tell you two parts of this thing: how it's affected the profession and how it affected our company. Right? We are very small. So how it's affected the profession? One thing has happened in the entire IT, software, technical industry. Actually, it has happened in many other industries too, but it's predominantly in the IT industry, where you can work remotely, right? To manage a computer, manage something, you can work remotely. So there was this notion of a lot of companies, a lot of managers had this notion, I must have this person come to my office every day, and I cannot work, I'm in the US, I cannot work in somebody in India or somebody in China or somebody in Europe. That barrier has gone down a lot. It's coming back, and we already see that there is a value of collaboration, being people together, that has not yet been replaced by Zoom or any of the video conferencing. It's good for meetings, but to brainstorm and having an idea and doing a problem solving together, it's very difficult to do this way. It's much easier to do it face to face, doing whiteboarding, for example.
Yeah.
But that has started, hiring process has become different. People are more open to hiring globally, or at least in the same time zones. That's how the pandemic has affected. We at TimeSys, we were not impacted as much because we already had people all over the place. So we were set up to do remote work. But we had some people who just could not work from home. So after 2 months, some people called me and they said, hey, Atul, I want to come back to the office. I can't because there's no separation of your home life, personal life, and work life. So fortunately for us, we work on medical devices. So we actually wrote to the governor and we got a special permission for people to come to the office. And we did our tiny, minuscule contribution to helping with this pandemic is one of our customers was they have ventilators, and they had these screens that displays that they wanted to repurpose for ventilators because it was a short supply. Suddenly you have so much demand for ventilators. So they asked us, they needed help. So our engineers and these companies' engineers in Bangalore, for example, they worked, and 2 days, we did not have the hardware. They worked together. They will create the patch. In 2 days, we solved the problem. But that's what I'm saying. It was not a very difficult job, but it was a tiny. We all feel very good that we at least did some contribution.
Yeah. No, you should actually, because ventilators are they are very required because the oxygen saturation of people, they drop all of a sudden. So it is required. So congratulations, and it's something to be extremely proud about.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, the team feels good about it.
So, Mr. Atul, as we all know, you're very successful in your profession. Do you get time to spend with your family, and how do you balance work and life?
So yes, I do. I have over years, I have learned how to compartmentalize my life. So I'm very focused person when I do something. So if I'm doing something, I'm very focused on that. I do not try to do 5 things at the same time. I can switch very easily from one to another, but so I have compartmentalized my life. When I started Laurel, that was not the case. The first 3 years at Laurel was very difficult to balance that thing. But I have now, I'm a workaholic. So my compartmentalization is not, I, in one day I'll compartmentalize. I will, even if I go on vacations, we go on vacations. With families, we have covered a lot of world, basically. We have seen almost every continent except for Antarctica and probably North Pole. So I compartmentalize, but I carry my laptop with me and my phone. So being there, I can be up to date on my stuff. Only thing is it's delayed. I will come back in the evening, or I get up early in the morning. I'll catch up on my email, send some things, then I'm with the family doing something.
Oh.
So yeah, so I've managed to learn. It's not an easy thing, but over time you learn.
Yeah, we as teenagers struggle with time management. So this is useful advice for us. Thanks.
Yeah, time management is a big thing. Yeah, and everybody, there's no one answer. I have learned from my wife. She plans ahead. Her name is Ritu. She plans ahead everything, and my kids, she has ingrained in them this planning versus me, last minute person, procrastination. So I have learned a little bit more from her now, and there's a lot of value in that, basically.
Yeah.
So just to add one point for all the kids, see what happens is, as I knew I could do things at the last minute. So even at doing homework or doing things, my priority used to be, let's go play first thing, play cricket, play badminton, then come back and finish the homework, right? So I knew if it needed 1 hour, I'll save 1 hour to do the work. Whereas what my kids, my wife taught them, and I see in that what one could do, you finish the homework, then you go play. So you can, and then you can produce a better output, So there's a lot of value in that. But there's something in my basic trait is very difficult to change.
Yeah. So, do you get time to pursue your hobbies? And if yes, what are your hobbies?
So No, I have, yes, I do pursue. So one of my hobby is golf. So we play a lot of golf basically. So on weekends, that's where most of the time goes in playing golf. And in fact, I'm going next week on a golfing trip. So this is again balance between what you'll enjoy. So taking 4 days off and just going playing golf basically. Um, so yes, I also like to watch movies. And as a kid, I used to watch every Hindi movie that came. But now the TV shows or whatever the serials are very popular. So that's one of my ways of relaxing after I work long days. Evening after I dinner, if I don't have any calls, I will just turn on TV, and that sort of relaxes me. I'll watch a few hours of TV, go to sleep basically.
Yeah. Okay. Hope you get good weather on your golf.
Yeah, I'm hoping it's 120 degrees in Vegas.
Okay. Okay. Then the next question was I was wondering that you've achieved great success, and every successful person models their personality uh, based on someone. So who's your role model?
So I have many people that I look up to. So I'll start with my brother-in-law. He built a very successful business, and every time I meet him, it gives me more motivation because he's a go-getter. He doesn't take any no for answer. He keeps doing this thing. So he's very proactive. So to some degree, I'm not like him. To some degree, I'm also, once I focus on something I want to achieve, I will focus. It will work in the background. So he's one of my role models. Then I look at people like Deshpande. He is a very successful, very well-known Indian entrepreneur. And I came to know Desh when he was in the networking field. He's also one of the founders of TIE, co-founders, maybe after Kanwal Rekhi. He came. I don't know what time he joined TIE. So, but and again, I've never met Warren Buffett, for example, but you read about Warren Buffett and you read his papers and things like that. What I find these people, at least especially Desh, and what I've read about Warren Buffett, they are very humble, humility, and that matches my own personality. And I think it's one of the great things to have besides being them like smart and things, whatever they do. Humility is one of the things that I look up to.
Yeah. Yeah. As they say, walk on clouds, but keep your feet on the ground. Uh,
Yes. yes uh, I've seen very successful people. A lot of very successful people are very humble. That's a very good quality.
yeah. Yeah. So this is one of my favorite questions, Mr. Atul. Let us say we go back in time when you were 16 years old. What is that you regret not doing, and what is it that you regret doing, or is there anything that you would change if you're given a chance to relive your high school years?
As I said, the for me the big thing, uh, I was bad in languages because I could not memorize, and I thought language was not important. I was very good in math, physics, chemistry, but I was really bad. It's not that I did not pay any attention. It just did not come naturally to me. And my friend used to say, Atul, study English, study Hindi, study. I mean, it's not just Hindi. Hindi is my native language, but it's nothing to do with Hindi, English, just language, something I just did not pay enough attention, right? And it caused me setbacks and issues a lot of times in my life, okay? If I were to change something and I can go back, I would see I should have spent more time. These are important skills. Language is an important skill. The other parts, I don't know about history, but other parts are important. So being a STEM, what I was like a science major and math major, that one thing I would change. And the second thing, I would become a little bit more, not procrastinate as much. Those are two things I would change.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree about your views on language. As you say, powerful words can change the course of history. And many of us tend to ignore language and focus on math and science, which is something we shouldn't do.
Yeah, if you look at the big, very good orators, President Obama, for example, he's a really good speaker, right? He's a full command on the language, and language where it helps you to convince others of your idea. It helps you communicate your idea much succinctly, much clearly. And if you guys can spend time, don't think it's useless. It's very important skill, actually.
Yeah. So one last question, Mr. Atul. What final piece of advice would you like to give to the students who are currently in high school?
Um, uh, the I'm not good in advising people, but I can share some story. When you believe in something, when you think that this is what you believe is the right thing at that point, pursue with all the passion. There will be many naysayers, So for example, when I started Laurel Networks, I met the VCs, and they put an impossible schedule for us to build the device, because this is the market windows thing. We need to deliver this thing in 18 months, okay? I had a team. We had a team of some initial people, and we knew we could hire more people. So we believed that we have all the right set of people, right skills that we can deliver. So when the VCs asked me that, Atul, can you build this thing in 18 months? I said, look, only thing I have is team, but I need money. And I just put a number out there, and I said, I need $1 million to put together a business plan and start doing some initial work, actually. Without that, so I wanted to see how much commitment they have, And I came out of that meeting and I told Ritu, oh no, don't worry about it. It's just a dream. I threw out a number. There's $1 million that I need. I mean, there was some basis for that $1 million, but here I threw out a number. They're not going to give us $1 million, and nothing's going to happen. And a week later, money showed up. So that's how Laurel started. So you pursue your dreams, be passionate. That's all I can say.
Okay, great advice. Many of us are underconfident about our decisions, and I think this will, help us in going forward. So at this point, I would like to open the floor for audience questions. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask them now. You could either unmute and ask, or you could message me personally. It's up to you.
This is Sia. Do you mind if I ask a question?
Yeah, please.
So I'm sure that you make a lot of decisions on a daily basis, and indecisiveness can be a difficult trait in such a position. So how do you make sure you do not overthink a decision or let it get into your head?
So your name is Sia, right? I see it as the Sia. So Sia, thank you for this really good question. That is the big challenge between how do you make a decision. The problem as a CEO, the higher up you go, the less data you have to make a decision. typically our tendencies, especially engineers, we are taught, try to get as much as data possible to make a decision. Sometimes you have to make a decision, and that's where this risk factor comes. How much risk? So one way of looking at it, I have this much data to make a decision versus what is the risk involved. If you can help quantify a risk, for example, and you can say, what is the worst could happen, for example. So let's say a simple example could be, hey, I am trying to make a reservation because I'm trying to set up a meeting with the customer. And if I book a ticket and meeting doesn't happen, what will happen? I'm just giving you a very simple, because the decisions are much more complex. So if you think that meeting is important, you pick whatever date you're looking at, you can buy a ticket. And the cost of that decision will be the price of the ticket. Let's say you don't go, then you lose that money on that price of the ticket, for example. So, but the decisions, the bigger decisions which affect a lot, becomes very complex. You try to get as much data as possible, but you there is another saying actually say, don't boil the ocean. Okay, I don't know whether you guys have heard of it. Don't boil the ocean. Don't try to look at every possible option. You think of it, what your gut tells me, you have your own hypotheses and 2-3 things. You say, just focus on those and see what you can make it work, basically, and make the decisions along those lines. Most of these decisions has a very high degree of uncertainty, and that's why you make a decision, but don't get married to the decision. That if you make a wrong decision, course correct, rectify. So you try to measure your decision. If you make a decision that says, let's meet in 2 weeks, how we are doing, and if something is wrong, own it. Take the responsibility to say, I made the wrong decision. This is the reason at that time, we had this much data, and based on this data, we made this decision. Now, 2 weeks later, this is what we have seen, so we are changing our course. So that's how you do it. But don't do it too often. Sometimes you have to let, otherwise you will keep churning yourself. I don't know whether I helped you or not, but that's how I process.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Atul, we have quite a few questions coming from the audience.
Sure. Go ahead.
Yeah, so the first one is, how did you develop management skills and avoid procrastination?
So I think at one time I did not believe too much on the MBA. So I have developed most of my management skills on the job, talking to people, learning from people, working. So that's all real life experience in developing the skills, Later on, I've gone, sometimes I find some very interesting management book or somebody's this thing and I read it. What management MBAs kind of schools where they help do it, they give you a framework to think about it, how to make a decision, how to make a financial decision, how to look at a certain options. They help you with a lot of those things. And in hindsight, it probably would not have been it would have been a good idea for me to do MBA. But again, it was not in my DNA to go do another course, another thing. So, so everything I've learned is on the job. But you talk to a lot of people, you get a lot of opinions from people, how they have done. You learn from them. That's how I do my learning. Not to procrastinate. It's you have to prioritize what is important. As a CEO, you always have more work to do. It's always the question of how now. Now it's less about procrastination. It's the question is where you give your time. And it's very easy to give your time to things that you like, you enjoy. Not necessarily they are the right priority, but you enjoy. And sometimes you have to focus on things that are important, but you don't enjoy, basically. So one of the techniques I use, sometimes I'll do a complex problem, then I'll go do a small problem that I enjoy and I know I can solve it. Once you solve it, you get gain satisfaction, you pat your back and you go back to the hard problem again.
Yeah. Also, guys, why don't you guys unmute and ask, because I'm scared I might miss one of your questions in the chat because there are quite a few messages coming. I can read whatever I see, but in case I miss, please feel free to unmute and ask.
Okay. My first question is that like everyone like asks about how to start a business. It is important, but how do we maintain a business?
So hi, Bhaskar, right?
Yeah.
Hi. So yes, very good question. The business challenges are starting is a problem, of course, and you have to have a good idea, a good market, everything. But maintaining is also equally difficult, especially in the tech industry. You have to constantly innovate, because if you're not innovating, their competition is innovating. So it's the same challenge as I mentioned previously. You have to, the days of the life of the CEO, you are pushing your product engineering to say, keep innovating, you keep talking to the customers to say what problems they are facing so you can solve the problem. But biggest thing in business, maintaining businesses, keep an eye on cash flow. Make sure if you are getting customers, you are getting revenue, that is your blood lifeline that feeds everything else basically. In a startup mode, if you are raising money, making sure that you're meeting all the milestones so you can raise more money to actually till the business becomes profitable.
Okay. Thank you. My second question is that what is the biggest sacrifice does a CEO and founder needs to make every day?
See, the excellent question. I think what happens is this goes back to Sanjana's original question, the balance in life. At the end of the day, people end up sacrificing their personal life. Something comes up, something happens, you have, I remember, as I said, Laurel first 3 years were very, very hard for me. I had very young kids. They were like 7 years and 4 years old, basically. And as I always thought I'll play ball with them, spend a lot of time with them. But the first 3 years, 4 years of Laurel, it was just at work, nothing else. And you missed. My wife Ritu will take them for all these different things, soccer and all this, whatever the standard is in US. I didn't spend much time with them. And that's what a lot of founders and all, they end up sacrificing their personal life. That's the biggest sacrifice they do. Obviously, some people invest their own money. So not just they sacrifice their personal life, they also financially sacrifice a lot, basically.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Hi, Atul.
Okay,
Can I go next?
yeah, she go next. Yeah.
Hi, Atul. This is Anil. Apparently, I work for ECA Telecom. And
welcome, Anil. Glad to be here on the ECI team.
Yeah. So today I have, as a parent, I would like to ask one question about your, I mean, it's a great time. I mean, I can see all your experience in these 40 minutes. It's a lot of things to learn. And about your undergraduation, you did in chemical engineering, and then you came to know that computer science is your cup of tea, and you. So, as a parent, I would like to know or see how. I mean, how do you those 4 years? Do you think you wasted, or how can we avoid such kind of things?
Okay, yeah. So this is an interesting question from the perspective of, hey, do you if you study something and you think you're not working in that field, have you wasted your time? Is that the question, right, Anil?
Yeah, Atul, yeah, similar.
So it's not actually. It's actually it's completely opposite. See, as an engineer at IIT, I did not. I mean, I learned chemical engineering, and I never used chemical engineering in my life. But the things I learned at IIT, how to be an engineer, how to process information, how to solve a problem, how your mind has been trained to look at a problem, all those things, whether you do chemical, whether you do mechanical, whether you do computer science, all these things, at the end of the day, it's all about problem solving. And how do you solve problem? How do you think about a problem? That's all they teach. So I think the IIT education was very good. You also make a lot of good friends. They are at a lot of places. So part of it, when people say, go to Harvard or go to Wharton for your MBA and things like that. Why do people say that? Obviously, they have very good professors, their education is excellent, but you also form a network of people you study with, and then they go to places. So you now have a built-in network. As you graduate and later in your life, you have people that you can call upon. That's another benefit. But no, absolutely not. To answer your direct question, absolutely not. There is no wastage of 4 years. In fact, um, at my time, I did 5 years of IIT because it used to be 5 years. And then I did 2 years of chemical engineering master's before I switched to computer science. So I spent 7 years. And I don't think it was a waste of time. I learned a lot, basically, and it helped me throughout my career.
Yeah, got it.
Can I go next?
Can I go after him?
Sure, Manav, go ahead.
Yes. Do you think that the sacrifices you made in your personal life are worth it?
Yes. So I have my kids love me. I have very good relationship with my kids. So at some point, as I said, that I started to balance my life. Obviously, we used to have a lot of tension at home. We have been sitting at home. You are working all the time. Can you go? And my kids still ask when they call me. He said, first thing they ask me, "Are you busy?" That's how, instead of saying hello, that's the first sentence they say, "Are you busy?" But I the way I measure that whether it's worth it, I look at my family, I look at my kids. They're all doing well. Okay, it means we have done something good for them, and they are both doing really, really well. Family is good. We are happy. So in I don't know. I don't have an alternate to tell you, measure you whether it was not worth it. If we did not do well, I may have a different thing, but everything worked out. Touch wood. So I think it was. You have to follow your passion. You have to take risk in your life. Nothing is. If you don't take risk, then um, I'm not talking about personally, but if I give you an example of a as a business, there's so much competitive pressure, and a lot of businesses they start to say, I'm doing well, I will not innovate. Means I'm doing well, why should I spend more time on it? And eventually somebody else takes over their business. um, think of it, take an example of video rentals. Video rentals used to be a big thing, but probably not in your time. When Netflix and all the streaming came, the whole video market went away. So cannibalization always happens. So people have to take risk, otherwise you become obsolete. And degree of risk is different. It's also your lifestyle. Um, what do you want to achieve, basically? And these are very difficult at your age. These are a very difficult question. Pursue, get something. Uh, Given how technology is improving and how people are living, you may end up changing your career. Even if you're a doctor, you going from a doctor to become a CEO of a healthcare system, you're no longer actually doing daily looking at the patient, but you're running a hospital system. That's a career change. So in your life, you will go through 4 or 5 these kind of career changes, basically. So pursue your dream, basically.
Can I ask one question? My name is Meet.
Thank you.
So my question is, so I want to build a Indian car company. So, so suppose I'm working at Lamborghini. So should I stay in the job and then staying in the job? While staying in the job, should I start the company or should I quit the company then? Should I quit the job then start the company?
So there are three-part answer I can give you. I don't know the exact situation. First thing is, you should first find out what is the problem are you trying to solve, okay, in this thing. What is the need in the marketplace that you're trying to solve? If that need, what the idea you have overlaps with what Lamborghini, for example, wants to do, then you should quit your job. You cannot um, you go to them and says, this is my idea, and they say, okay, they will give you money to start the company or something, but it's very difficult. Or they say, we are not in that area, and you can do that thing. But it's very hard if you're working and you're pursuing you're in the same area. If you're in a car company and you want to go build something else, you want to go build a medical device, a Fitbit, who cares, right? You're not in the same area, so there's no conflict from that point of view. So that's another thing you have to avoid. The third thing is to make sure it's hard. You don't know why you want to start a company, right? You should be ready to understand why you want to start a company, and there's nothing wrong. One of the things, Silicon Valley is very different from any other place, is there if you fail, it's not considered a negative, okay? A lot of places, if you fail, the fear of failure, like, I panicked and left military school. There's no shame in failure, and that's the one thing Silicon Valley environment teaches or shows, that they actually celebrate. They say, oh, you started that company, you failed that. That's not what they want to know, is what you have learned from that failure. So having that, don't be shy, but be prepared if it fails, right? That be prepared for it.
I can go next. I can ask a question.
Sure, please. Yeah, I was not showing. Okay, I'll keep moderating, Sanjana. It's easier. Yeah, go ahead.
So myself, Harshita, and I am in 11th standard now. In future, I want to keep a business. If we will keep a business, there won't be suddenly we get a profit, but it will gain somewhat. Until that, how to attract the people towards us, and there will be some tricks to gain somewhat of profit from it.
So I am very happy to hear Ishita, right? That's the name. Ishita, I'm very happy to hear that you're motivated to build a business. And if you find people who are same passion as you to build a business, then you form a team. Then that's how you attract people, okay? But then when you attract people, everybody has the same goal, you will figure it out how to get money, okay? Whether your family provides it, or you have an idea, or you all work hard. A lot of people I knew that how they started a business, they become engineers. So they have an idea, so they will work during the daytime, the salary they're getting, they are using that money to actually fund their business, for example. As you learn what problem you are solving and how money is coming from the customer, eventually, yes, you will make profit. And that's the goal, to make a profit. If you don't make a profit, then you cannot sustain a business. Get the people of your passion, get them, look at two things. Business is all about finding, you should have a lot of energy, a lot of passion, but finding the right people who also believe in the same thing. Okay, I'll further qualify. Right people with the skills you need. You have to be a little judicious in terms of finding the skills you need for the business, okay?
So sometimes there will be so much of loss and there will be a closing of a company. Like when we'll start a business, not if further we'll go for profit, we'll think, okay, we can continue this. But further we'll get a loss, we'll decide to close the company. Then how to recover that to be a company and we should run off it? It's better to close or it's better to continue and try further things new that we can?
It's a very hard question, Nishita, to answer, but you have to look at that time. It's very market dependent, and what you're offering. Are you solving a real problem? People are willing to pay for it. There are many factors go for it. But if you cannot make profit and you do not have another idea, there is no point pursuing the same idea again and again and keep losing money.
Okay, sir. Thank you for the information.
Okay, you're welcome.
Guys, we have time for 2 more questions. This meeting will expire in some time. So,
Yeah, can I ask one question?
Go ahead, Rahul.
Yes, sir. So my question is, what keeps a person motivated during the initial stages of the business? Because he or she goes through a lot and sacrifices a lot. So what keeps him motivated?
As you there is a drive, there is something in your personality. That's the question you want to ask, why you want to build a business. As I was telling you, I had seen when we went through a financial difficult time and I saw all my friends were doing well, somehow I was 15 years old, somehow I said, I want to build a business. And my personality and things like this, they kept me motivated. A cause, either something happened to you or cause. A business, for example, you don't have to have a business for profit, right? Let's say you're motivated to help somebody. Sanjana and Sanjana's dad yesterday were talking about somebody else is coming on this program. She's a doctor, but she decided not to pursue her for-profit career. She's helping people in the rural India. That's a business. It's non-profit business, but that's a business. She's motivated because she has a cause she's trying to fix. So that is very important to keep your motivation. There will be time you'll be down. Surround yourself with positive energy. People who are optimistic, that will keep your motivation up.
I have one more question. How do you fund the initial stages of the business? Like you're building a business from scratch. How do you get your funding done?
That's a good question. There are many ways to get funding. You should Google it, but everything starts with what problem are you trying to solve? How one simple way of doing it is you go to somebody and he says, okay, I have this idea. Will you fund me to experiment with this idea? But there are many ways. That people spend months to figure out how to get initial funding. But there are many ways to acquire funding. There's a very good course I have not attended. There's a Thai Seattle is offering a course on entrepreneurship, some basic courses. Even Thai Mumbai is doing something, you know. So you could Google it and find out. You'll find a lot of material, a lot of webinars, how to actually start something.
So,
Okay.
may I ask a question?
Sure, go ahead, Prachi.
So I'm a school student. I'm a student in class 9. So like no matter how much a person differentiates between the personal, I'm not sure how relevant the question is, but like no matter how much a person differentiates between the personal and professional life, it's possible that you have a strong mindset and a motivated mindset, but some pre-existing problems from the past arise, personal problems that affect you're mentally unstable at the phase, and it gradually starts affecting your professional life. So what should one do? Should they just neglect their emotions, leave it to the fact that time will heal everything, or should one just take a break, console themselves, take a break, get fine, stable? Like how should one deal with that phase?
Mental health and dealing with this thing is critically important. It will affect your business, your decision making. It will affect. So you should get counsel, talk to people as early as possible instead of ignoring it. That would be my take. Talk to somebody. You don't have to go to a doctor. You don't have to go to this thing. Talk to. The biggest thing is you will have lots of ups and downs. Business has its own advantages and disadvantages. When you, at least for me, I like to build things, and I see something I built and I say it's flourishing. Like Anil, you said ECI, when I come to Bangalore sometimes and I meet all the people and see ECI is doing well, that gives me a lot of satisfaction. So you always surround with people, advise, be open. That's one of the challenge happens. People think that if they have an idea or they have problems, if they don't share, if they share, it shows weakness. Actually sharing with some people who you trust and who can help you actually makes you stronger.
Sir, I have one more question about the funding part. So you want to start a business while you're in a company. So suppose I'm in a company and in a company I get the idea to start the one startup company. So how, in that case, how to go about the funding?
Sorry, I think we're running out of time. You can probably send me. We can. I wanted to give you some other people chance to ask if they have not asked questions. But what was your question again? Sorry, I did not get it.
So, sir, suppose I'm working in a company, specific company, and in that company, I get the idea of starting one more startup company of my own. So for the funding process, should I stay in the job and then try starting the business, or should I quit the pre-existing company and then concentrate on my business?
So that factor is all depend. There are many factors go in. As you said, if you're competing with your existing company, then you should quit. If you are just trying to take time to build a business plan and prove your idea and talk to people, and you need to fund that activity, then you stay in the job because that money coming in from that job is funding that activity. It all depends on your financial condition. It's very hard for me to give you one answer. But one thing I can tell you, if your company is directly competing with the company you're working, you should quit. Otherwise, you'll run into a lot of problems with that company.
Sir, how you manage your time with your work and with your family and spending with your children, sir?
I was just going to say I don't sleep. No, that's not the question. It's priority. It's always priority. If something you feel important, you give time and you give up some other time. Like this is an important thing. I like talking to people. This is a priority, so you give up something else. Not watch that much TV. Like I usually play golf on Saturday, Sunday morning. When Sanjana asked, I said, okay, I can do it because it's in India. I need to do it in the morning. We managed it. I'm playing golf in the afternoon. It's Sunday, so I'm playing golf in the afternoon. That's how you manage. You prioritize. There's always enough time.
Sir, can I ask a question? Sir, I'm a grade 10 student and I have a doubt. How did you suddenly switch from procrastinating to studying 16 hours a day? Can you share some tips to manage time and stick to our goals?
For me at that moment, that evening when I was at the wedding and they told me when I came back, I just realized that I have wasted so much my time and my future looked very bleak. Before that, I'm a happy-go-lucky guy. I will get something done because I always used to get something done. And at that moment, it was just, oh my God, what I have done. There's no hope for me. But I'm being an optimistic person. You said, let me try. It's still time. There's 2 months. You put together the plan and said, okay, let me go execute. And that's all about being optimistic, being positive, right?
Okay, guys, I'm sorry, but we'll have to close now. Thank you all for joining. I would like to thank you all, audience, for joining today's Buds on STEM session. The recording for today's session will be uploaded on Buds on STEM website. You can also reach out to me as like in case you have any questions. My email ID is mentioned on the front page of Buds on STEM website. The link to the Buds on STEM website is www.budsonstem.org. We'll have another session most likely next month with another STEM specialist. So stay tuned. And thank you so much, Mr. Atul, for your time. It was wonderful having you here.
Thank you, everybody. And I wish you all the best. Go follow your dreams, build a business, be a doctor, be an engineer, be whatever you want. There's so much, the opportunities are limitless. So wish you all the best. Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you.
Bye.